Hi everyone, I'm your host Mary Vin Rose, and you're watching Healthy Living in the Bronx. And you're watching Healthy Living in the Bronx. And you're watching Healthy Living in the Bronx, where we highlight people and organizations that are helping Bronx residents live a healthier life. Whether we are talking about organic beauty, demystifying fire cupping, and acupuncture, or learning the latest workout trends, the Bronx is inspiring and serving wellness communities locally and nationally. Without further ado, please welcome our host. Hi everyone, I'm your host Mary Vin Rose, and you're watching Healthy Living in the Bronx, where we highlight people and organizations that are helping Bronx residents live a healthier life. Today's guest is Mabel Nunez. Mabel is a stock analyst and the CEO of Girls on the Money. Hi Mabel, how you doing?
Hi Mary, I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. I'm actually really super excited for this conversation. I think so many people don't understand the importance of financial literacy, especially for our community. So before we even get into like stock market and investing, can you tell me a little bit more about Girls on the Money? What exactly is that, and how did you come about and start this?
Sure. So I discovered, well, first of all, I grew up in the Bronx. I'm Dominican and I moved here when I was 9, so very young. I grew up in the Bronx. I went to public schools all my life. And it wasn't until I got to college, my senior year of college, that I discovered that the stock market even existed. It was something completely new to me. And once I realized that this world was available to everyone, I became pretty obsessed with learning to invest and, learning how it works and learning how I could do it myself. And I would try to talk about investing to, my friends, people in school, people around me. And I realized that most people that I would talk to about stocks and investing were men. Very rarely, if ever, were any of my female friends into investing or interested in investing or interested in talking about it. So around 2012, 2013, I was sitting on my corporate job and I like the name Girls on the Money came to mind. I'm like, oh, that sounds like catchy, like Girls on the Money. It sounds good. And the initial, thought process behind that was to create a platform for education, just to teach my fellow ladies how the stock market works, how they can get involved and start investing on their own, that they don't need to depend on, anyone else to kind of take the control of their own money. So that's kind of how the background of Girls on the Money got started.
So what is it now? So it seems like it started off as like a website, just a blog, but
Yeah.
what would you say Girls on the Money is now?
Yes, so I would say an educational platform. So I teach courses, I have a book, and I do workshops, just an educational, like I said, platform where people can just go and learn the basics of investing. Just my goal with all the education that I teach is to make people very comfortable with how it works to the point that they actually want to do it, because I feel there's a lot of fear around investing in stocks and all of that, because it seems confusing. It seems like rocket science, and it really isn't. So just Girls on the Money is an educational platform where I teach investing through different ways.
I think that's something super important. Like that was something very key, that it's not hard and it is accessible to everyone. That's something that I'm glad that we're going to demystify today. I'm not going to lie, before like maybe this year actually, I didn't really know that much about the stock markets. I heard people talking about it. I know on my iPhone, like a little app comes up and it says like what's going on in the stock market, but I really didn't understand it. I'm really glad that you have this book called Stock Market Investing from Many Lessons for Beginners.
Yep.
This book has come in handy for me as I'm starting to look at maybe building an individual portfolio. But before we even talk about the stock market and investing, how can you convince, or not convince, but like what advice do you give to someone who may be struggling with rent or has student loans, like that investing in the stock market is actually beneficial for them? Like how do you go about telling your girlfriend something like that?
So I feel that investing is extremely important, but before you get into that, I call it the next level, you have to have your foundation set. So you have to have, obviously, your core expenses taken care of every month. Obviously, you want a roof over your head, you want to have food on the table, take care of your kids and stuff like that. That has to be, completely set. And then you want to have some savings set aside, because the way I look at the stock market is it's not as a game. Like there's a lot of misconceptions. People think it's like Vegas, like I'm going to put $100 today and I'm going to have $1,000 in 2 days. It doesn't work that way. The way I invest is very long term. So you want to look at the money you set aside for investing as something that you want to let grow and compound over time. but you still want to have money set aside for any emergencies, things that might come up. Anything can happen at any time, and you don't want to be in a position where, okay, now I have an emergency, now I have to cash out my investing account. It shouldn't be that way. I strongly believe that in order to get to the investing part, you have to have your foundation set. It's just your core living expenses, some savings, and then that extra money that you can afford to send to an investing account. And it doesn't have to be a lot of money, and we can talk about that later, on a consistent basis. And then you build that, for the long term. So it's just having, your core, foundation taken care of.
So let's dig more into like that foundation piece of it. So let's say we have a brand new college student who has come out of school. She has a lot of, or he has a lot of debt, and he doesn't even know, doesn't even have a savings account. Like, what are the financial steps that someone should take when graduating school?
Yeah, that's a great question, especially nowadays that people come out with so much student loans. It's like, I feel like it should be illegal to come out of college to just work to pay loans, which it is what it is. But I would tell somebody just coming out of school, which is something that I did. I came out of college with student loans, but from the very beginning, when I first got my first job out of college, I was very frugal. Like, if you want to position yourself to a future of wealth and to be well financially, you have to take responsibility of your money up front. You have to, fine, you have, your student loans you got to pay for. Maybe you're living at home, you want to help your parents a little bit, or if you're living on your own, you're paying for your rent. You want to be responsible with those kind of things. But then outside of that, like in terms of like going to parties every weekend, going to brunch all the time, like spending money on expensive, clothes or sneakers, that when you think about it, those things lose value like almost immediately, like, as time goes by. So just be responsible financially. Just have a mindset of, okay, I'm going to pay, what I can afford in my student loans. Like, there's income-based repayment programs. Be responsible with your payments. You don't want to default. But then outside of that, start building a foundation of saving, and then teaching yourself or learning to invest your money so that whatever money you're saving, you're also putting to work. The main advantage that young people have today coming out of college, being so young, it's time. When it comes to investing and growing wealth, yeah, you need the money. You need to make smart investing decisions. You don't want to put your money in junk and stuff that aren't worth it. But a main part of growing wealth, as time goes by, is that time that you have, your money has to compound. So you want to start as early as possible being responsible with your money and saving your money. And then once you have a good amount saved, you want to, put some aside for your, emergencies, and then figure out how you can invest the rest in a way that's smart and that it can, help, compound over time.
It wasn't until my early 20s that I heard the saying, have your money make money for you.
Yes.
And I didn't know what that meant. Like, at an early age, I was actually very fortunate to have parents who taught me how to save. I've been saving since I was like, before I even know what savings really was.
Yeah.
Like 2 years old, I had a savings account,
that's
right?
Awesome, yeah.
So for those of people who are watching at home, my advice would be like, if you have young children, get them a savings account as soon as possible. If you didn't have parents that has given that to you as a gift, do it for yourself. Give that to yourself as a gift, even before graduating school. But how much money would you say should go into investing? I mean, going into your savings first and then investing. Is there like a dollar amount? Is there a percentage amount?
So, yeah, great question. I would say it depends. Obviously, it depends always on your life situation. Like, if you have kids, if you have a mortgage and stuff like that, your savings, usually what personal finance people say, 3 to 6 months of living expenses. But for most people, that sounds like an outrageous amount. Like, okay, I'm going to have to save $10,000 to even start investing. It sounds like something that's unrealistic. So I would say if you don't have $1,000 in a savings account collecting, either a good amount of interest or, you want to have your money working regardless. If it's not being invested, you want to find a bank account that's giving you the most interest. So build yourself up to at least $1,000. That's like a perfect starting point. And then just leave the money alone. Like, it's not like, an emergency is not, okay, it's my friend's birthday and I have to go buy 3 bottles. Like, that's not an emergency.
It's not.
You want to have...
Gotta turn out, that's the emergency.
Exactly. Like, you want to be, that money is like, seriously, like,
so
if something happens...
So wait, Gucci's having a sale, 50% off. There's no way. No, that's not an emergency. Okay.
It's funny, I have friends that text me that all the time, like, like, there's a sale of this expensive brand. I'm like, who is that, first of all? And like, leave your money alone. So yeah, at least, I would say at least $1,000. And then anything outside of that, I know it's a challenge to understand, like, how do you invest exactly? And like I said, we can talk about it. But then outside of the $1,000, you can start, like, putting your money in, like, really quality, different types of investments, I would say.
Yeah, we're definitely going to go digging more into the investment part of it. And I do want to talk a little bit more about savings in a bit. But the really important question, from your perspective, why do you feel finance is so important to wellness? Because this is a wellness show, and I know people are probably watching, Mary, this is healthy living in the Bronx. Why are we talking about finance? But finance, I feel, is important. But I want to know, why do you feel it's so important?
Oh my God, I think it's so incredibly important. I feel that money is a topic that is a taboo for a lot of people, and that obviously causes stress. Like maybe you have so much that you owe on a credit card, or you can pay your rent or something like that. Obviously, that can cause a lot of stress to people, and they keep it inside, so that makes it worse, and that affects your wellness and affects pretty much everything in your life. I read a statistic not so long ago that said that 70% of people would rather talk about any other topic, including their weight or anything else, before they talk about money to even their close friends and people around them. So I feel, it's important to speak up, to look for help, everybody goes through issues, either money issues, family issues, whatever. It's important to seek help so that you are able to take it to the next level and start getting out of that, hole that you feel that you're in. So I think obviously slowly but surely getting better with your money will help you. Even if you make a little bit of progress, it'll still help you feel better, and it'll build momentum to continuing to improve your finances.
Yeah, I think you said something very key. You said it's long term. I think sometimes when people think money, because we think of like our consumer society, our capitalist society, where we want to buy and everything is instant gratification. But what we're going to learn more about today is how to think long term with our money, and that's like the true key to like getting rid of generational poverty.
Yes.
So I know I'm getting in the cue that we have to take a quick break. But when we come back, I want to say thank you to my viewers for staying tuned, because when we get back, we're going to talk more about how you should be saving and how you should be investing in the stock market. See you guys. Hi everyone, I'm your host Mary Vin Rose, and you're watching Healthy Living in the Bronx. Before we took a quick break, we were talking all about investing and saving with Mabel Nunez. Welcome back, Mabel.
Hi, thanks, Mary.
Thank you for being here with me and taking that quick break with me. So right before the break, we were talking a little bit about finance and why it's so important, and it is something essential to our wellness, because finance is a big stressor in many people's lives. But now I'm ready to talk about the really exciting stuff. We talked a little bit about savings and why we should save, and that it's never too late to start saving, and that you should have an emergency fund at least of $1,000, right? So I wanted to know I don't want to put myself on the spot, but what exactly is a stock?
Okay, that's a good question. It's actually, for my beginners on my Instagram platform or whatever, I bring that up all the time. And sometimes I feel like, oh my God, like I'm bringing something so obvious, but I know that is something that's foreign to a lot of people. So I like that question. So a stock, you can think of a stock as a piece of a company. So if you interact with any businesses or any services on a consistent basis, or you buy certain products all the time, or you have something that you're sending your money to all the time, you should know that you can also be a part owner of that business if it's a public business through stock. So a stock is just like buying a piece of that business. And I always say that whether you own one share of a stock in a business or 1,000 shares, you're always a part owner. You're officially a part owner as soon as you buy that piece of that business through stock.
So what is a good way to start buying stock? Like, what's the first key step to anyone that wants to buy stock? Is it making a list of stocks? Is it like reading a book? Like, what is the first key step?
Okay, so first you have to have some money set aside, obviously. It doesn't take a lot of money. A lot of people think, okay, I need to have $100,000 to invest, or hundreds of thousands of dollars. It doesn't work that way, especially we live in really cool times today where you can start investing with the bare minimum. There's no minimum requirement for most of these apps or investing accounts. So, have some money set aside. I would say outside of the emergency fund, maybe $500, $500 to $1,000, something like that. Obviously, good point that you just made. Make a list of companies. If you want to be investing in individual stocks, like individual businesses, there's some people that claim that it is very risky, and I understand where people come from with that. But the way to get around that is first, put your money in quality companies. So, like you said, make a list of companies that you constantly interact with. Ask yourself questions like, where is this company going to be in 10, 15 years? Is it still going to be around, or do you see that company disappearing for one reason or another? You ask yourself those questions. Is it a company that's profitable, that's making money? Make a list of companies that you consider of high quality. And the way you get around the risk that people say come with individual stock investing is to be diversified. So you being diversified means you're not going to put all your money in one stock. And the reason for that, and the reason why that can be risky, is because when you invest in one stock or one company, anything can happen to that company. It can go out of business, it can, get into trouble, it can disappear tomorrow. And what happens with individual stock investors is that if a company goes out of business, we don't get our money back. It's just that you invest the money in that company with the with the expectation that your money is going to grow and compound over time. And if it turns out to be a really good company and that happens, yes, that's how you make money through investing. But, the worst thing that can happen is the company goes out of business and you lose your investment. And the way you get around that is that besides investing in quality businesses, you invest in different type of companies, maybe 4 to 5 to start with, and then that's how you build your portfolio over time. So going back to your question, save some money, make a list of the companies that you really believe in, that you see going to be here for the long term. Like, no companies are going to be here tomorrow, gone, here today, gone tomorrow. And then allocate your money strategically in a few different companies. And then see how you feel. It's not about putting, all your life savings in stocks. It's about you get started, you start slow and steady, see how you feel about the companies that you invested in, and then you can add money going from there.
So how would someone even go about that? Like, I know my first investment, I guess you could say adventure or endeavor, was I used an app. I think it's called Betterment. I should know the name of the app, right? And I found that it's a mutual fund app. So they kind of diversify the stocks for me. I went more on a little bit of the moderate conservative end in terms of my investment. But now I want to start doing like maybe my own individual portfolio. So what do you say to those of us who are so nervous? Do you recommend doing an app like a mutual fund app like what I'm doing first? Maybe that can kind of get someone a taste. Or do you recommend like doing the individual portfolio? And if so, how do you go about that? Like, I'm asking for a friend, aka me. Like, how do I go about my individual portfolio?
Excellent question. So before any of that, for your people that are watching here, before you even get into opening an app or anything like that, see if your employer offers a 401k or some type of retirement accounts. A lot of people, and it's crazy to believe that, a lot of companies give people, they match whatever money you put in your 401k. That's like getting free money. So first of all, if you're not investing and you're not even enrolling your company's retirement plan, 401k plan, that should be your very first step. Because first of all, they automatically take money from your paycheck every couple of weeks, and then they manage that money for you. And that's like the easiest, most straightforward way to get into investing without even having to do anything except for like maybe filling out some type of application at your job. And I have to say that one of my best financial decisions was contributing to a 401k when I first got out of college. And I didn't know any better. Like, I was just like, okay, I already don't get paid a lot of money, first of all. Like, now they want to deduct a percentage to send it somewhere. I'm 21 years old. I'm not retiring like ever. You know how we think? Like retirement, like what is that?
That's like,
I'm 21. So, but thankfully my dad talked some sense into me. Like I had 1% in my 401k. My company actually matched up to 7%. And my dad was like, what are you doing? Like a match means free money. So he convinced me and I put it up to the match. And that was one of the best financial decisions. So before doing anything on your own, first tap into your job and employer and see if they have that. And that's your automatic introduction into investing without going crazy. After that, once you've done that, if you want to, what you just mentioned, like apps like, they're called robo-advisors. So like robo-advisors. So they're great for people that want to be hands-off. Like you said, like you wanted to get into investing, but you didn't want to, you wasn't sure how to figure out how to pick your own stocks. So you want to leave it up to like these platforms. They'll ask you questions based on your risk tolerance and your goals. Your money is invested in different type of funds, like you said. So they'll just do the work for you, and they'll charge you a fee every I'm not sure how that works because I've never invested through those platforms, but I know they charge you like a small fee, and it's reasonable considering what they're doing for you. They're managing your money. So I'm not against those type of platforms. If you want to be more hands-off, those are fine. If you want to be more hands-on, if you want to like kind of get your toes into investing on your own, I think that's a great idea because I'm a huge fan of individual stock investing as long as you're investing in quality. And I like to emphasize that because when people talk about investing, they think about penny stocks, they think about Bitcoin, they think about all these crazy stuff that you don't even understand. You just think that you're going to become rich overnight. And that's what scares me with a lot of people. Like they think like it becomes such a big hype that people that have never even heard of investing before, they put money in these things and they don't even know what's going on. So I stay away from anything that's I don't really understand and that's obscure. So there's a few apps and M1 Finance. Robinhood is, you just deposit a certain amount of money. They don't have a minimum, maybe, like I said, $500. And you can buy shares of stock in different companies that you're interested in, that maybe brands that you use all the time, that you know aren't going to go anywhere, they're going to stick around for many years. You can do it through an app like that. M1 Finance I like because it's also free, but in addition to that, they allow you to buy partial shares, which means that if there's a stock that costs $1,000 and you can only buy one share, which who is going to invest, $1,000 in one stock? Right. What M1 Finance allows you to do, you can buy a percentage of that stock. So you can build a portfolio on your own based on percentages of different kind of companies that you like. And that's also a flip platform, so it's hands-on.
Well, can I interrupt you very quickly? Yeah. Most stocks don't cost $1,000, right?
No, not most of them, but there's a few, the very popular ones that people might recognize that cost over $1,000. And really good company, and you buy it at a reasonable price, there's really no ceiling. Like the stock can continue going up and up over time. And that's why I emphasize to buy quality from the beginning so that you don't have to worry about, okay, I put my money in this company that costs 50 cents. Now I'm praying and hoping that it goes to 52 cents so I can cash out. And those type of I consider those junk and garbage kind of investing that I don't get involved in and I don't recommend to anyone. So yeah, just go with quality brand names that you can recognize, that you know aren't going to go anywhere, that you know that you can see their products, you can see their services, you can you see them walking down the street, stuff like that. The way I started investing back in 2008, which is a crazy year, was through an online brokerage account because we didn't have the apps option. That didn't exist till a few years ago. So through an online broker, same thing, you can just put whatever money you can afford to put in there, and then you want to select the companies that you want to invest in, and then you just leave it alone. You can be. One thing that I forgot to mention earlier is that there's a difference between being a trader and being an investor. A trader is someone that's going to sit in front of their computer all day long when market is open, buying and selling all day long, trying to make a quick buck. That I don't have time for that. I don't get involved with that. I think that's very risky. That's more like gambling to me. Being an investor is you finding really, really good businesses, really good companies, you're doing your research, and you are, putting some money in there maybe on a consistent basis, and then you're leaving that alone. If nothing has changed about the company, if the reason why you bought it in the first place, if nothing has changed about it, you can just leave that stock alone to grow and compound for you. There's going to be times when there's going to be up and down because the market is crazy, that's normal. But then when you leave things alone to do what they need to do, usually you find that your money grows very efficiently and faster than just sitting somewhere doing nothing for you.
So just to recap a little bit, it looks like I don't want to say formula, but to make it very plain English for everyone is first things first, you have to have a solid foundation. Make sure you have some type of savings, at least $1,000 in your savings account for a rainy day.
Yes.
Make sure that another step that is really good, make sure you get that 401k, so investing with your job. And then the next step is to then put some money aside, start saving strictly for investing. So we can say between $500 to $1,000. Exactly. So let's say if someone has a good $800, they use an online broker, and now they can, work with that online broker to invest in percentages of stock. Because a stock doesn't mean that you have to buy the whole stock. You can actually get 0.5 of one stock.
Yes, you can, but that's not a lot of platforms allow you to do that. The only one I know of that allows you to do that is M1 Finance. Okay. Most online brokers allow you to buy, and preferably, I would prefer people buy the whole stock. When it's something that's $1,000 or something like that, that's when I will get into the partial share situation. But for the most part, most people can afford to buy a whole share of a stock. Most stocks, 90% of the stocks don't cost $1,000. So you can definitely find good investments that don't cost that much, and you can buy whole shares. And one story that I like to give is that I started just what I told you, how the steps to get started. That's how I started. Like, I was saving money because I knew I wanted to learn to invest eventually, and eventually invest my money. So my first investing account that I ever opened, it was with $600, and that was it. And I bought 4 shares of a company that I really liked, and I left it alone. Like, I was still scared. I was just like, okay, where's my money gonna go? Like, is this trustworthy? What's gonna happen? So I was still skeptical, and a lot of people feel that way. So I only bought 4 shares, and what shocked me, what I was really shocked about, and I've told this story before, is that 3 months down the line, I had put like $600 in my investing account, and then I had the bulk of my money in my savings account. Like, significantly more than that was in my investing account. So one day I got an email from my bank telling me that they just paid me 30 cents on my savings. I was like, okay, 30 cents. And then I looked at my investing account, and I only had $600 in there. My investing account had gone up by $50. And I was just like, it's not about the $50, it's that I was making 30 cents where, at the place where most of my money was sitting. Meanwhile, where my money was being invested, it was growing more aggressively and more efficiently than, getting cents. I was getting dollars in an investing account. So that was one of the things that kind of opened my eyes to continue learning how to do it the right way and continue buying quality companies and then growing my portfolio over time that way.
So one of the last questions I want to ask, I actually did a thing on Instagram where I asked some of the people who follow Healthy Living in the Bronx on Instagram, I asked them, I said, okay, I have Mabel Nunez from Girls in the Money coming in. Can you send me some questions that you would love to ask? And one of the questions was, can you break down the process of handling your own stocks and investments? Like, example, make an account, pick stocks, choose how much money to invest.
Yeah, so I guess first of all, once you open opening an online brokerage account or an investing account, it's going to look very similar to opening a bank account. Like, they're going to ask you the same questions. They'll ask you your name, your social, because they want to know that you're not doing anything illegal with the money. They're asking you like those basic questions. You transfer money from your checking to your investing account. Very simple, very seamlessly. It's like a very simple. And I like to explain that because people are like, okay, how do you even open an investing account? Like, how does that even work? So I like to make that clear that it's very simple, the application process. You transfer money from your checking to your investing account. And then once the money is sitting there, you buy the stocks that you want to buy. Maybe a couple of shares of this company, a couple of shares of that company, and just leave it alone. And then you said like in terms of tracking it and stuff like that?
So another good question that I got from a viewer is, how often should you be checking your investments that you've made so it doesn't become like an addiction, especially if you're an app like myself, you know how you can check social media over and over. Like, how do you not check, like how often should you be checking?
So that's an awesome question because people get stuck on like checking all the time. And one thing you have to realize is that the stock market is constantly up and down. You can check how it's doing maybe every couple of months. If you know that you're invested in either quality funds or individual stocks, if nothing has changed about your investments themselves, like you know that maybe the market is acting irrational, but nothing has really changed about what you're holding in your portfolio, there's not really need to make any moves or any crazy moves. If you understand that it's just the nature of the market to be up and down all the time. That's how it is in the short term. In the long term, studies have shown that, money in investments has grown, very significantly over time.
Coming on the show and for everything you're doing. So if my viewers at home want to get in touch with you, learn more about what you do, or have access to all your resources, where can they go?
Sure. So the easiest way to find me is on Instagram at Girls on the Money and my blog, girlsonthemoney.com. So from there, you can direct to my Facebook group, Facebook page, and all of that.
Thank you to my viewers at home for watching. I hope today's episode has provided you with some real tools to help you take control of your finances. If you want to keep in touch with us, make sure you're following us on Instagram at Healthy Living in the Bronx. We also have some cool behind the scenes on our YouTube page at youtube.com/Mary Vin Rose. I can't wait to see you on the next episode of Healthy Living in the Bronx. Bye, guys.